today's Cardinal lesson, we're going to talk about estate planning for people in second marriages where there's stepchildren involved. But most of this applies to first marriages as well. Anywhere there's children and a surviving spouse, we're going to talk about estate planning, and we're going to talk about how life insurance can be used to solve this problem. So I just had a client or a couple clients, a married couple that are in a second marriage, and they have 2 children she has, 1 child he has, and when they got married several years ago, he had more accumulated money, significant accumulated money, relative to her. And so a trust was set up to just make sure if there was an immediate death or something, that his kids would inherit the money that if Dad would have stayed single and then passed away, they're entitled to, okay, or not entitled to, but they would have received. And so now we're many years later, and we still have all these provisions in place. And what became real apparent to me in doing their financial planning and retirement planning is that they don't have enough money to leave money to any children at the first death. So assuming one of them were to pass away, and say in the next 10 years, these people are in their 60s, in the next 10 years, things were set up so the kids are going to do well, but the surviving spouse is going to have a hard time. And we needed to change all that, and they wanted to change all that because their priority, they've been married for a good while, is still the kids. They want to make sure the kids get an inheritance and all that is good, and I agree with that. But we reshifted their priorities. My priority is my spouse, because when people are married, we got a couple of incomes coming in, a couple of Social Security checks, and we're living out of the IRAs and all of those kind of things, and we're in one house, and then all of a sudden that person dies, we got to look at how's the survivors going to fare, and we needed all their money to go to whoever survives. So the answer to that was to look at buying a life insurance policy for $300,000 on each of them. Wasn't cheap, wasn't terribly expensive either relative to the money these folks have. And the $300,000 policies, and then it will give each of them, so we got 2 of them, $300,000 each, and it names the same 3 children with $100,000 of life insurance, tax-free, will come to each of the 3 children, no matter who goes first. So the life insurance in this case is set up to pay the kids instead of each other. They've got enough money that the surviving spouse is going to be fine. And so if they go together, I guess it would be $600,000, but that doesn't happen that often. I mean, it's typically one of them passes, the other one lives on maybe for several years, and then later passes. And the way we set things up, the kids are going to split up whatever's left after the second death anyhow. They're going to split it all up equally. But the focus in their retirement planning needs to be on the surviving spouse. And then the focus of the life insurance was making sure that the natural children of whichever spouse passed away are going to come to their service, and their stepmother or their stepfather is not going to take all the money and they get nothing, okay? And this is just going to give them a check for $100,000 each. That was very important to the people. And then now to treat them all equally, stepchildren or natural children, all the same. Then in addition to that, these folks were very concerned about long-term care, and I was concerned along with them that people like them, if they have enough money that they would be forced to pay for it themselves, and that could come at a very hard time. So we set up these life insurance policies so they can be used for long-term care. So, and this one is pretty simple. Is you take $300,000 and divide it by 50 months, which is $6,000 a month. If they need long-term care, either at home or in an assisted living, they will get a check every month for $6,000, which is simply taking their death benefit of $300,000 a little bit by the month early. That'll come to them tax-free and pay up to $300,000 of life insurance, protecting their other money. Now, there's a downside to this, is they're using for long-term care their kids' inheritance, essentially. And I don't think the kids are going to have a huge problem with that if that scenario plays itself out for 4 years. It's really protected the principle of the estate. Now, and in many cases, they'll just use part of the $300,000 for the long-term care, and then they pass away, and then the balance will be split up amongst the kids and amongst the beneficiaries. So that's a situation where we're able to use life insurance, and for these people, the combined premium is about $1,300 a month, so that's 15 grand a year. That's some serious money, but you know, when these people had several $1 million of assets, you have IRAs and assets and things that they own and potential future income, so it's not going to be as difficult for them to pay, and it's really setting up the inheritance, but it's also buying them long-term care insurance. So I'm Hans Scheil, and I thank you for listening.